Former Trade and Industry Minister Acacio Gabbar is accusing government of lacking the political commitment to revive the Commander Sugar Factory. It follows concerns by residents in the catchment area of the factory that the administration has failed to honor a campaign promise to get the Central Region factory working. Jojo Kobna visited the Commander Sugar Factory and has more in this report.
There sits the Commander Sugar Factory. It was revamped in 2016, but for now, I would not call it a sugar factory. It is a huge monument showing the nation what failure to plan looks like.
Beyond the issue of bad planning and neglect, the $35 million facility is gradually rusting away after 2 years of inactivity and lack of maintenance. This is how the factory looked like 2 years ago. Now, this is the current state. The well-coated and painted metal plates now look brownish, corroding as the day goes by. Kweku Isaac Inketia, a resident, says he regularly drives by the factory and gets upset to always find it idle.
In fact, Uncle, oya tete oya yaw. Me again nipa, samu twon mu na factory sie jana. Meja me yedwumo. Me yedwume bia. Be hye nwon polo jam. We jam mpa wie. Enti na factory sia na adoli jam no in fact. E bia sa ade ye adwuma, anka mutu me yakonja sam mapa pra hwe ni mpa na de modo do ho mpa. Anka obobom amna me family. But me na ma di sie jana mfaso bia de. La be ka de no yere. One face kan waje. Ade so sia no sika papa no waje waje. E mutu da ade sie jana bibia nkodo a oya me yo 2 years ni o tem be a investment dama anka oya me yo me the whole k another Ghana me nala.
For now, sugarcane cultivated to feed the factory are channeled to Akpatashi distillers.
That is ahwe no waje yansa me youth boys and girls ya nom ya say life. Nso hono ama mentase oh yo pa nti be sira ban adu so ensika kakraba o ensika kaba krade nti be sira no pa onfa no nso no nwom be.
3 weeks ago, President Nana Akufo-Addo said his government would soon find investors to put the factory to work.
Ministry of Trade and Industry, a strategic investor.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry is still looking for investors. We are reorganizing the operations of the factory.
For the sugar, the type of sugar we can grow here, all those things were not properly organized.
Very soon, you hear something good from us.
But some residents do not find the president's statement assuring. They argued that if the president had plans of opening the factory, it would have been put to use long ago.
The investors because they are politics. Flagstaff House na wono nyame na menye show ntema ba ka cha minim se no kolo se no kolo ame muntu me nkire nti se no kware dey investors aba eye the better mo mbra politicians na more time wo ba kan sam de do wo je chen wo kwa na wa to adwinum mo hia no kokomati wo ba ka asem eye da ama aba na ato am wo ko no wo kida abe ma wa forget
aponchen no odidi me sure since I wear the madin and could have 6 months or so no wash machine. It's a machine is in Canada or me sure they say was also be innovator, but also I spend more money onto it. It's a annual cost financial loss to the state. And at least for now, the government should come and do something about it.
While the factory remains closed, it is estimated that sugar worth $200 million is imported to feed beverage and manufacturing industries and for domestic use. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
Well, it appears the factory may not be operationalized anytime soon, as Information Minister designate Kojo Opon-Nkrumah says the Trade Ministry is still yet to get an investor to run the factory.
It must be stated that government has not said that it will or the state will build these factories on its own. We have insisted consistently that we will work with the private sector, we'll collaborate with the private sector, we'll facilitate the work of the private sector in building these factories. 18 factories have been accredited so far. An additional 50 are expected to be accredited before the end of this year. And this should bring to almost 70 the 1D, 1F projects by the end of this year, 2018. It's not the business of government to be doing business. The business of government is to create that enabling environment and to encourage the private sector to go there. As was mentioned by the Trades and Industries Minister, the Commander Sugar Factory requires a private sector partner with capitalization that would ensure that, for example, outgrowers, raw materials, etc., are regularly available to feed it. That requires its own funding and the things associated with it. And the ministry is going through the process of finding the necessary investors who will be able to take on that risk and run in that space. And when we have a new update, we'll make it available.
But former Trade and Industry Minister Acacio Gabbar says government's inability to allocate money in previous budget statements to the factory shows it has not committed to bringing it back on stream. He is not impressed with our government is rolling out its industrialization agenda.
That is what we want the delegates to test in their own communities. As they go out of a meeting with me, go and ask people in your own community, which of the NDC candidates, if we brought, will your community vote for? Not just you, the delegates. And let that be your guidance in deciding how you vote yourself.
There are some who say the former president is clearly looking beyond the internal elections. It appears he's won. That is why he's engaging the vice president in a public debate on.
The nationalization agenda doesn't make sense if you have a factory sitting down already, like Commander Sugar Factory, which simply needs government prioritization and government focus to work, and the government is not allowing it to work. That cannot be a basis for saying that the country is serious about industrialization. One district, one factory, after 18 months, not one factory has been built and not one factory is producing. So there may be 10, 20 factories that they are trying to build. It shows a slow progress in this matter because the whole one district, one factory initiative was apparently lodged in a certain ministry that reported to the presidency, rather than possibly being lodged at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, where the right experts and civil servants who have the right orientation are located. So that may have slowed down the one district, one factory initiative, for example. And so due to all of that, one cannot say that NPP have begun on any serious industrialization agenda.
On Commander, they say they are looking for a strategic partner to take over.
Yes, I handed over to the NPP one strategic partner that was already willing to pay $25 million to own 70% of Commander Sugar Factory, and a list of other potential investors from Mauritius, from the UK, from Brazil, from India. I don't know what they did with that list. They seem to think anybody who was working or talking to the NDC is somehow colored politically, and so they must go and look for their own new human beings, but they are not.
Do I get a sense that you suggest that you feel that it's more than just what we are seeing on the air that is causing the factory to remain idle, perhaps?
Of course, without any question. NPP have chosen not to make it a priority. If they have made it a priority, they should tell us how much in the budget for the Ministry of Trade and Industry they put for maintaining the Commander Sugar Factory. You as a media person, go and do the research. Did they budget 1.5 million, 2 million, 3 million cedis to support what needs to be done for the factory to work, or is zero?
Well, a contractor who worked on the defunct Commander Sugar Factory says it will need about $70,000 a day to run effectively. Perry Mensah, who's CEO of Peryland Company Limited, is urging government to be bold and invest in it instead of just looking for private sector investment. He spoke earlier via Skype on The Pulse.
In my own estimation, we need about $70,000 a day to run that factory. You understand? If we are buying the sugarcane from farmers and so forth, and we don't have our own plantation, then we need that amount of money, which translates into something around 17 to about 21 million per annum.
Well, with 15 and 40% margins, you must be very baffled that no private investor has stepped forward to take over the factory.
Yeah, because you see, let me ask a question. You cannot sell a vehicle that is not running. The vehicle is there, and then you tell somebody that, oh, you are selling your vehicle, and the person doesn't know whether the vehicle will run or it will not run. Because you see, if we are able to start this factory, and let it run, even if we do a test run for 3 months, and then it starts commercial production, and people begin to see that Commander Sugar Factory is producing sugar. Tomorrow, if you put in the papers that you need investors, I'm sure there will be private investors in Ghana who will be interested to take over.
Then it sounds like you disagree with what the Information Minister designate was saying, that government is not in the business of doing business, and that they simply want to create an enabling environment.
No, that is true, because I was talking about PPP. If you see, we want to do a PPP. This is a new thing we have gone for a loan for, and we say that there is another loan that can help people to, produce the sugar. Yet, you see, all we hear about this factory is the bad side of it. Do you think that if you're an investor and you always hear that, oh, Commander Sugar Factory is not working, Commander Sugar Factory is so and so, will you put your money in? So to prove to people that this is a good factory that can work, and therefore they should come and put money in, government can do that. Initially, when we were doing the test run, it was government. Government can do a test run for 3 months, prove to people that, yes, the factory can actually work, and it has produced sugar. And then people who are interested will come in.
Vice President Dr. Mohammed says Cabinet is taking a decision to get all government institutions to start powering their offices with renewable energy. This is to avoid the financial burden Electricity Company of Ghana and other power distributors suffer when state institutions fail to pay for tariff consumed on the national grid. Dr. Bamia added feasibility studies are ongoing at the Jubilee and Parliament houses where the pilot takeoff is expected. The Vice President was speaking at the Renewable Energy Fair at the Accra International Conference Center Tuesday morning.
This year, the Energy Commission piloted the installation of solar home systems for 200 households in the Kwehu East and South districts in the Eastern region. It is expected that the Commission will scale up this project to other parts of the country yet to be connected by the national grid. Cabinet has also taken the decision to move all government institutions to solar power. The reason is very simple. If there is the energy efficiency matter, but there is also the financial matter. As you all are aware, historically, government doesn't tend to pay its bills to the ECG, which has put the ECG in many financial quandary. And so we are making the simple decision that at the heart of making sure that the energy sector is financially self-sufficient, government should really move more towards solar power so that we don't get burdened with more and more electricity bills that government finds difficulty in paying. And so in this regard, I think the feasibility studies for the Jubilee House and House of Parliament are already underway, and we want to move this to all MDAs, to hospitals, to schools, police stations, and so on. We've got to move towards solar energy by government as a matter of priority.
Mental health experts are warning that parents are increasingly spending very little time with their children, with serious implications for their mental health. Dr. Kwejo Mafo, obeying off the Ankafo Psychiatric Hospital, explains parents, in a bid to satisfy the pressures from the workplace, coupled with the need to send their wards to schools far from the homes in pursuit of quality education, is taking a toll on the children with long-term implications.
Our current social structure is very, very unhealthy for children. The general family structure is not healthy. People are living very long distances from where they work, and their children are going to school far away from where they live. This means that the amount of time spent at home as a family is very, very, very short. They leave the house, typically they wake up at 4 or 4:30, somewhere thereabouts, and they rush through getting ready to go to school. And at this point in time, most people are agitated because they are worried about getting late for work, or they are worried about their children getting late for school. Their children then get to school often an hour, 2 hours before school is due to start, and they loiter around doing God knows what. Now, if such a child is at risk of having an addiction or there's a risk of taking up some of these substances, they are giving the person an hour or two where they're doing absolutely nothing in the morning, where these people can be preyed upon. They then go to school for very long hours, and then the parents pay for extra classes, not because the child needs extra classes, but because the parents need the child to be somewhere before they close from work. Because if they leave work early, they might lose their job. They leave work, they go and pick the child up. The child has again another hour or two after school because the parents closes his work at the same time the extra classes finish. So there's another hour or two where the child is left essentially unattended before the parent picks them up, drives them home, and then they eat and go to sleep. That kind of interaction that some of us got with our parents is now missing in a lot of Ghanaian families, particularly urban families. You are not getting time to know your parents. Your parents are not getting time to know their children. Often when we have people come to the hospital with addiction problems and we mention some of the things that have been going on, how long the person has been using the substance for, the parents are often surprised because you don't have time to know your children. You would say, oh, wait, but they have the weekend. The weekend, you are tired from that long week. Your day starts at 4 and ends at 9 or 10. The weekend is when you sleep. And then Sunday, they're going to church. So even the weekend crowd, they don't get time to know their children and even know each other.
Dr. Acacio Gabbar joins me via Skype now for some more on this rather disturbing trend. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Obeng. Now, you have raised some very interesting points there, and I'm sure many parents who are watching us right now would readily identify with it, especially if they're having to drive their wards long distances to school. Are there any statistics at all to back this observation you've made?
Unfortunately, it's not something that we have studied extensively in Ghana. Essentially what I was referring to were logical inferences from what we know to be the effects of some of these things that have been when they've been studied in other situations.
All right, so we're just taking something that has been observed in another part of the world, and we're just bringing it down to our kids. It's true, though. I mean, you can many parents would readily identify, but is there some solution you'd want to suggest? Is it the case that people should probably keep their wards at schools closer to their homes?
Well, if that is possible, that would be helpful. But I suppose what I was really trying to do is get people to be aware of the problem.
All right.
So if that is an option and there's a school that is of an equivalent quality for your child's education that is close to your house, there would be a significant advantage to your child for going to a school that was closer.
All right.
But if that is not an option, and I find it helps to be aware of the effect that it's having on your child, so that you can find other ways of compensating for the problems that that might arise from what you have to do.
You talk about contact hours, the fact that you have very little time with the children or your children being a problem. But I'm trying to imagine that if you're sitting in the vehicle with your kids on your way to work or to school,
Yes.
It offers you enough time in traffic to engage them, isn't it?
Right. So this is one of those things that I'm saying that you can do some things to try and compensate. But that's only if you are aware that there is this problem in the first place. You would imagine that a lot of these people woke up, they went to bed very late, they woke up very early, and it's not every child that really understands the importance of getting ready quickly or is able to get ready as quickly as the parent would like. So I find often you'd have a very tense car ride where the father or the mother, whoever's driving, might already be anxious about going to work late or irritated at the child for making them late in the first place. And therefore, the interaction that you might get in this car ride might not always be a useful compensation for the normal interaction.
Especially, maybe let me just add
these
this
are
one.
precious moments that they're spending with their child,
Yeah.
that they are molding their child, they might take more of an interest in making such an interaction more useful.
Especially when during traffic, traffic itself is a tense moment because you're having to concentrate and having to deal with other road users who are giving you too much trouble.
Precisely.
How else, apart from making a conscious effort to know that you're in, this is what the impact you're having on the child, what other ways can parents, go about this challenge so that they can ease the tension and make use of these rights to school?
Well, you would appreciate it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Like you mentioned, some people don't really have a choice in where or when they go to work. So different people have different situations that they'll have to find their own tailor-made solutions to. So some people would have to make sure that every weekend they spend with their child counts. Some people would have to take advantage of their car rides, and some people may have to bring in substitutes, a strong parental figure who is able to spend more time with their child on their behalf because their situation is that they cannot do it themselves. So after the problem is identified, it's up to the individual themselves and us as a society to think of ways of solving the problem.
Now, you also talked about addictions. How early are you noticing these addictions?
Oh, I think the youngest I have seen personally is about 10 years old.
All right. And what are these addictions, or what are some of these addictions?
Well, that's the interesting thing. When I started practicing psychiatry in this country, the majority of cases that you'd see in young people in particular was alcohol or cannabis use. But recently, we're getting people addicted to multiple substances, not in the least tramadol. There are some cough syrups that are now being popular. Even with the cannabis, that's now people taking it in the form of drinks, toffees. It's getting, you are not getting that picture where you saw one person presenting with one substance anymore. Now, young people are presenting with multiple substances that they're using.
Right. Is there anything you would suggest that the schools will do so that they can occupy these children for the periods that they're there and not having to do anything, really?
Indeed. I think some schools are actually doing well in this department. They've acknowledged that the parents are not able to drop their child at a reasonable time. So some schools have some activities that begin from as early as 6:30 or 7 to engage the child in something productive so that the child is not just loitering around. And some schools also extend their services till late in the evening. I think some even reach as far as 6 or 7 or 2, as long as it takes for you to come and pick up your child at an extra fee. So of course, it's all an issue of financing, because if somebody has to be at work at 6:30 to make sure your child is catered for and is doing something productive, that person is going to need to get paid extra. So that's the other challenge with that as well.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Kwadwo Ma, for sharing those insights with us. But I mean, you make some really fantastic points, and I believe, or I hope that parents who are watching are going to take something out of it. Now, Latif Idris has been on the streets engaging some parents on the contact hours they spend with their children. Let's watch this.
For the topic, yes, I have. And it's one of the reasons I put my kids here, school near my shop. We'll come out in the morning together. After school, they come back. I supervise their assignment. We go home together. Because where they are before, I take them to school early in the morning. I come to church, to my shop. Because their school is North Kaneshi, and I'm here in Kotobabi. So around evening time, I'll be rushing to go and pick them. So I noticed some changes. Their academics, the way they play, the ways they're speaking, I know what is going on. Where are they learning such things? And some of them, sometimes when they talk, they'll say fucking. So I was like, where is such words coming out? I don't use such words in the house. So I was like, where are you guys learning all these vulgar languages? So they will say my kids, sometimes the teachers use them, fucking boy, such things. So I've witnessed such. And I would advise parents, I know it's not easy. Because working hard, you are working hard for the kids to provide money for the school fees, and when you get nannies to take care of them, is something else. So I think it's only God. I don't know.
Right, so that right there is the picture we have been talking about all evening. As you can see, there's a parent who has the child standing by her, and it is as late as 7 p.m. This child probably should be home, and they're taking a rest or going to bed. But that's what it is, and that's what we're discussing. So I hope that some parents out there will take a cue and figure out, as the psychiatrist suggested, Dr. Obeng suggested, figure out ways that you can make use of the time that you spend with the kids in the vehicle. We're taking a break. Oh, before then, let's just hear this young man.
Ken. Yes, Ken.
Enjoy the number of hours you spend with your mom?
Yes, please.
How many hours do you spend with her in a day?
We spend, like, when we come back from school at 4 o'clock, we go home, we go to the store, we show our mother our notes and our assignments. So I just want to say we spend plenty time with her.
She said you were in North Tennessee.
Yes, please. Yes.
What were some of the bad things you were picking up at school?
Like such insults like fucking, you are stupid and idiots and the rest.
So very sorry about that. That wasn't supposed to be for your ears, but we just got this and we thought to share with you. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime. All right, so yesterday I told you about the Cowbell in the Sky promotion. That's an opportunity for one. In fact, we're looking for two people who are going to have the Cowbell hot air balloon experience. So you're going to be flying in the Cowbell hot air balloon. Now, what we're going to do to select the people is that you get onto our Facebook page. We've put up a question there. There's a post there with a question. I'm going to show that to you in a bit. So that's it. So this is the post. Look out for this particular post and answer the question correctly. So the question is, name 3 celebrities who have flown the hot air balloon so far. And now we're saying that this is limited to residents in Accra because all balloon flights will be in Accra. We don't want to burden people who are too far away from Accra to have to come all the way to Accra and join the competition only to lose, and which means that they're going to go back with essentially nothing. But this is a question we're posing, and already we have people who have put up the answers. They have put on the answers there. We have 160 comments. Now, what I would ask you to do, certainly there are lots of people who are going to get the answer correct and would have to choose amongst the correct answers. What we would want you to do is for you to ask people, if you believe that you have answered the question correctly, ask your friends to like your correct answer. Ask your friends to like your correct answer. The correct answer with the most likes will win the opportunity to come and partake in the competition on Friday. So we'll do it right here on set during the news. So that's what we're going to be doing. So go and get your friends to like your correct answer if you actually believe. We have 160 comments already. So go there, and if you believe that you've answered it correctly, get your friends to like your correct answer. Your correct answer. And then you stand the chance of coming to join me here in the studio on Friday. And we're looking for essentially 3 people who would invite into the studio. And then one of the 3 is going to win the opportunity to fly in that hot air balloon. Now let's move on. And former President John Mahama and Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia have in the past week been taking jabs at each other in what could be a revival of a rift that goes a few years. Now, it was then Vice Presidential candidate Dr. Bawumia who described then President Mahama as incompetent and got him fighting back. The following report captures a revival of the squabble, except the personalities have swapped roles.
Once upon a time, 2 men from the northern region towns of Bole and Walewale met on the 2 opposing sides of Ghana's political battlefield.
Our economy from the throes of economic mismanagement.
We will remember the almighty incompetence
Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia was partnering Nana Akufo-Addo to unseat President Mahama. President Mahama fired back, saying he would not take driving lessons from a man who had never held a steering wheel.
They told all their communicators, anytime you mention Mahama or NDC, say incompetent. So you hear Bawumia and say incompetent Mahama administration, incompetent. You've never held any responsibility anywhere near presidency before. You don't know what it is like to be president.
The elections came and the positions of the two men changed. Dr. Bawumia now had the requisite qualification to criticize Mahama.
Former President Mahama can now accept criticism from me, since by the grace of God I have now occupied the office of Vice President of the Republic.
But it was John Mahama who would have the upper hand.
It is easier to give political lectures on the economy than to manage the economy. Any economics lecturer can give lectures on the economy, but not every lecturer can manage the economy.
Well, it appears Dr. Bawumia has made a vow to himself never to let any of John Mahama's jabs go without a response.
I hear the incompetent one says he wants to come back. he wants to come and do more damage. As if he didn't do enough damage. Well, we are waiting for him. We are waiting for him. We are waiting for him. Oh my God.
Mention a name in his response, but the three speakers say Ekutiabia Niminura. As the race to election 2020 gains momentum, and there's a possibility that Dr. Bawumia and John Mahama will sometime in future be direct contenders for the presidency, the best or worst of the two is yet to come.
Well, NDC flag bearer hopeful Acacio Gabbar has raised concerns over how the simmering public debate between Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and former President John Mahama may affect the NDC's message for the 2020 elections. He tells Joy News it may turn the campaign discussion into who is the less incompetent instead of focusing on the policies that can improve the life of the ordinary Ghanaian. This follows a statement from the office of former President Mahama condemning Dr. Bawumia's recent utterances concerning the forum. The former Trade and Industry Minister wants the NDC to focus on policies.
That is what we want the delegates to test in their own communities. As they go out of a meeting with me, go and ask people in your own community, which of the NDC candidates, if we brought, will your community vote for? Not just you, the delegates. And let that be your guidance in deciding how you vote yourself.
There are some who say the former president is clearly looking beyond the internal elections. It appears he's won. That is why he's engaging the vice president in a public debate on national issues. Where do you stand on that matter? Do you think that engagement is healthy?
I'm not part of his campaign team, so I have no idea what the strategy is. We'll leave that to see if that strategy works.
But the banter with the vice president, what do you make of it?
Oh, I mean, many commentators are wondering whether we are going to have a debate during the 2020 elections about who is more incompetent than the other. Because that is what the debate seems to be about. That is not a debate I will expect to be part of.
What do you expect the focus to be?
The focus will be on the message that NDC will be bringing to the people of Ghana about what we shall do differently from what NPP are doing now. But the people of Ghana are going to be remembering any candidate based on alleged incompetence and incompetency. That is going to be a problem for any campaign message.
Do I get you suggest that a vote for Mr. Mahama may mean that may not work in the interest of the NDC?
If whoever is advising him or he himself chooses to make incompetency an issue, then NPP will be taking us on along that trajectory. And I'm saying that I don't intend to use incompetency as a subject matter for debate with NPP. Because in my whole career of 40 years, I've never been considered or called incompetent.
Police at Efiduase in the Ashanti region are on hand for two suspects linked to the murder of a final year student of the Efiduase Senior High Commercial School. It follows the arrest of 4 students and 2 dismissed students of the school. Final year business student Derek AJ was stabbed in the neck with a pair of scissors and later died at the hospital about 2 weeks ago. He is said to have sneaked out of campus with a friend to watch football outside when unknown persons attacked him. District Police Commander Superintendent Asare Bediako tells Inshura News the suspects and their accomplices conspired and robbed the deceased and other students. Oheming Teria has more.
The suspects in custody are Thomas Apia, Bright Ose Dankwa, Koku Asamoah, and Otukwasi Emmanuel, alias Lincoln, all of them aged 20. Otu was arrested on Thursday with the support of Iyasi police. The rest are teenagers Samuel Opontia and Bright Osu Echampong. They had entered the school compound through unapproved routes, supposedly to visit their girlfriends. Police say the 4 current students called and alerted their accomplices about the presence of some colleagues outside the main walls. According to Superintendent Asare, the deceased struggled with his assailants who had ordered him to surrender money on him. He was eventually overpowered and robbed of 5 Ghana cedis, while a friend also lost 2 Ghana cedis.
They came to the school and 2 of their friends went to the guest dormitory. So once one of the students, who is a suspect in our custody, called and told them that 2 students were coming out, so they should attack them and take whatever they have on them. And that is Emmanuel Otu and alias Lincoln, and then Isian accosted the 2 students. They had 20 from one, 20 CDs from one, sorry, 2 CDs from one, and 5 CDs from the other, the deceased. And then the deceased, before they took the money from him, struggled, and in the process, one of them stabbed him on the collarbone.
District Commander Superintendent Asare says the 2 fugitives mean a lot to police investigations.
Double up our efforts to get other perpetrators, and we had 3 people we were pursuing. So far, we were able to arrest 1, who is Emmanuel Otu. He is very important because he and then Isian were the people who accosted the deceased, and then one of them stabbed the deceased. So he's very important.
I see. The Jabin Circuit Court, presided by His Honor A. Yusuf Asibe, has remanded the suspects into police custody to reappear on October 15, 2018. The pleas of the suspects were not taken when they appeared before the court. From Efijasi in the Ashanti region for Joy News, Ohiminteria reports.
The National Ambulance Service is calling for incorporation of basic emergency care into the curriculum of security services and general driving training. Deputy Coordinator Dr. Maswelo Say Ampofo believes a well-trained public will help reduce casualty figures in times of emergency. He was speaking at a road safety workshop for personnel of the Ghana Police Service in Kumasi.
The 2018 media review by the National Road Safety Commission put average death rate per month at 202. Dr. Siampof believes drivers and other frontline attendants as well as police have a role to play in managing accident victims to improve survival rate.
Because most of the time, either the police are arriving first on the scene, or fire is arriving first on the scene, or there's a taxi driver, or there's a, a trotro driver, or any driver, or any road user. It's important that we incorporate into their training what we call a basic emergency care course, so that they will appreciate how to handle, injuries, and including other emergencies as well. Not only injuries. This is basic emergency. It's not first aid. It's more than first aid, because it's teaching you how to handle injuries and also other illnesses. Because even sometimes when people get injured from road traffic injuries or crashes, the way that they are handled can actually worsen or aggravate their condition. They may have a spinal cord injury, which is not complete. Just by the movement, the lifting, they may get worse. So I think this is a call, to the training institutions, Ghana Police Service, Ghana Fire Service, DVLA, so that every driver who goes to any training school, they should have a basic emergency care course.
Meanwhile, non-governmental advocacy group Holy Best Road Safety Organization says it's taking road safety education to schools and churches. The group collaborates with security agencies and other state institutions to promote safety on the roads. They include Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, Ambulance Service, Ghana Highways Authority, Department of Urban Roads, and Ghana Road Safety Commission.
Before then, they are helping education of road users, so that they obey the road signs, make sure that they are not in danger of injuries. But if the inevitable happens, then Olibest Road Safety Organization is also there to help road victim crashes in all the way, including compensation, how they can get their needed compensation from the insurance companies. So this morning, Olibest Road Safety Organization is organizing a training program for road crash investigators, so especially the police and then medical personnel, as to what needs to happen, during road crashes.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Governance expert Daniel Batidam has criticized President Akufo-Addo for clearing his appointees of corruption allegations before they could be investigated by recognized investigative bodies. Mr. Batidam believes the action by the president compromises the independence of investigative institutions and makes the fight against corruption difficult. He has, however, called on the president to allow the necessary investigative authorities to have their independence in the quest of curbing corruption. Mr. Daniel Batidam spoke on the Super Morning Show.
Speak directly to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo that despite all these weaknesses, I think the worst thing any president should do is to come out and be declaring people or public officials who are alleged to be corrupt. At least leave the institutions to deal with
What do you mean by declaring public officials?
No, I mean, there have been several instances where the president has publicly cleared
like in the case of the trade minister.
The trade minister is there, the 20,000 thing about, I mean, the whole lot of them. What I'm saying is that body language from the president was a very bad signal. You see, it's not that the politicians are different from each other, no, but I don't know any other president, and I believe in content analysis. I don't know any other president who has openly defended his appointees. I think that is a complete unfortunate thing.
But you know, in a number of these cases, he said that the BNI and other agencies did their work. He found something wrong with
the president is not the spokesperson of these agencies. Part of independence means that the agencies speak for themselves. If the agency, an investigative agency has conducted an investigation and has a report, why should it be the presidency that comes out to announce the outcome of it? This is bad leadership. And you see, look, the fight against corruption, despite all the challenges we talk about, must also come with some clear signals from leadership.
Mr. Batidam is demanding government cracks the whip on vigilante activities or risk all politicians paying the ultimate price. According to him, the modus operandi of vigilante groups is gradually destabilizing the country's democracy and they must be stopped. He added that the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo-led government must ensure the arrest and prosecution of its party's affiliated vigilante groups that have caused several disturbances since the party won power 21 months ago.
You know, these guys are saying, like all other Ghanaians are saying, that they were made some promises, by the political party, in this case the NPP, that they will be given some things or some jobs or if the party got elected. And fortunately for them, the party got elected, and now they are demanding accountability. Well, of course, on the face of it, it may look like a legitimate thing. It may look like a legitimate thing for them to demand because they were promised. But I think as a country, we must look beyond them as a group and ask ourselves, how are we playing our politics? Because if you take it beyond that group, it would also kind of be the same for every other Ghanaian. In other sense, when people also say, you promise us this. Now the question is, how are we supposed to get what we were promised? Is this the right way? And should we allow political parties that are supposed to be the institutions we invest our trust in to govern us, to continue to have groups that are using undemocratic, in some cases illegal or unlawful methods to change our governance. So I think it's a very dangerous thing that is emerging in our politics. The government, the party in government has a vigilante group which is causing havoc all over the place for almost 2 years. And the government cannot do anything about it well. Very soon, and I think that this is where the warning should go directly to our politicians.
Right, so there's a wealth report on Africa that is ranking Ghana as the 7th wealthiest country in Africa. Now, I'm going to be sharing that with you in a bit. For some, it would be exciting news that at least we're looking or we're being counted as doing well in something. But there are others who would also say if we're the 7th wealthiest country in Africa, it doesn't really make it that exciting. How do we compare or how do we rank when it comes to countries around the world? But I'll still share with you what this report says. The report is put together by the Afrasia Bank. So if you look at the top 10 wealthiest countries in Africa by per capita wealth, we have for 20 up to, they did this at the end of December 2017. You have Mauritius topping, and they have a per capita of $32,700 US. And then you come down to number 8, and then you find Ghana with a per capita of 2,500. So we actually went ahead of Cote d'Ivoire, Kenya, and Cote d'Ivoire as far as wealth per capita is concerned. Now let's move on to the other one, which also looks at still the wealth report, but this time they're looking at countries top 10 wealthiest countries in Africa by total wealth. And for the total wealth, Ghana placed 7th. So when they talk about total wealth, we're looking at South Africa leading the pack with 722 billion US dollars. So they lead with that, and then it comes down to Egypt, then the others. Ghana in that score was 7th. And then this is wealth growth by country. They're measuring the growth by the countries in terms of their wealth between 2007 and 2017. And then there's one other one that they put together which should interest you. So this one is the major African cities by total wealth. And this one, Accra, comes in somewhere, I believe, 9th. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well, it's we went beyond, but clearly we're beyond, or we're ahead of Abidjan, which is the capital of Cote d'Ivoire. And let's see which other one we okay. So this is the last slide. So going through their report, I was trying to figure out how they came by this, and they say that the report covers wealth, luxury, prime property, and wealth management in Africa from 2007 to 2017 with projections to 2027. We're hoping to get an analyst to get to speak with us about what exactly this report means and how seriously we're supposed to consider it. But one of the notes, it says wealth refers to the net assets of the person. It includes all their assets, property, cash, equities, business interests, less any liabilities. It will be some very interesting analysis if once we get somebody who is going to explain all of this to us.